Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of She Talks Business with the Lisa and Cass Show. We got it going on. We're excited. We got 10 strategies for you today to make your website sing. All right. If you listened to the last episode, you know that we went deep on branding, positioning, and messaging. Our goal over the course of this series is to really help you identify the things that really to help you identify what creates a solid marketing strategy. And we're doing this at this time of year because I know a lot of you listening are thinking about how to round out the year and you're thinking about how to ramp up next year. And marketing is what attracts people to your business. If you want more business, you need to step on the marketing gas pedal to get more business. And we identified 5 different things from the work that we do in building strategic marketing roadmaps for our clients that we thought would be helpful to you. First one was positioning, messaging, and branding. The next one is website. The third one is thought leadership and content marketing. The fourth one is podcasting and video creation. And the fifth one is content marketing distribution. And so we are on episode number 2 here. And we've come up with a list of 10 interesting things. And these 10 things are, we could be here all day probably talking about websites with you, but we have identified 10 things that we would like to talk to you about that we have found to be super helpful for the clients that we work with. So, Cass, how do you want to start this? Do you want to dive into one or do you want me to start?
I've got my list here, so I'll dive in. So the first thing, and we kind of came up with this list because we do what's called a strategic marketing roadmap. That is the first entry point for all of our clients to work with us. And consistently, every single client needs website help. And when it comes to the recommendations we make for their website, these are our 10 favorite recommendations or our top recommendations. But like you said, Lisa, we could literally be here all day because there are probably...
We don't have time for 100.
There are 100. There are 100 things that we recommend to some clients or others. But these are ones that are consistent or themes across multiple clients. So the first thing I have here is making sure that your brand is intact or making sure that you have brand congruency.
100%. I mean, we talked about that, I think, pretty much till the cows came home in the first episode that we did. But, your brand, the way that your website looks is the first impression that you make on a customer. So we're all familiar with what bouncing means, right? When it comes to websites, if you're not, it's when you search something on Google and you click on a link and you go to a website and then you immediately click back because you know right away that website is not for you. I want you to ask yourself why that website was not for you. Chances are it's because the brand on the website didn't resonate with you in some way. It either looked like it was built in the 90s, or it was too flash, or it was too in your face, or it was too soft, or it was something that made you go, no, next. It's no different than when you go shopping in a shopping center and there are hundreds of stores and you only frequent 5 of them. It's because you know that those 5 things are the things that those 5 stores are the stores that you most want to go into and that the other stores don't necessarily serve you. Your brand does the same thing. Your website is a storefront on the largest shopping center in the world. And people are either going to come and visit or they're going to click back.
Yeah. If you're lucky enough or strategic enough, maybe I should say, to have strong SEO and be able to rank high on a search engine results page, but then as soon as people enter your website, they leave. Why did you do all that work to rank well with your SEO? So you want people to actually stay on your website and find what they're looking for when they get there. There's a few other things that we have on our list that we'll talk about this, but dwell time is important and that actually impacts your SEO even more. And if people are engaging with your website, search engines pick up on that and that will help you rank even better and help more people find you.
100%. And so think about it. What you see when somebody clicks onto a website the first time is what's called above the fold. So, what is on the top of the screen that people see when they go to your website first is the most important representation of your brand. It is the make or break first impression. You want it to be a solid one. All right, number 2, there needs to be enough information on your website for people to really understand what you do. And so I recommend following some type of a framework. We use the StoryBrand framework with a lot of our clients. I have used David Fry's 12 steps to creating foolproof sales copy many times. You do not need to be rote about this. You do not need to follow every single step verbatim, but it is a really, really great idea to have some type of a framework that you can follow so that you are ensuring that you're not missing the steps that people need to understand exactly what it is you do.
Yeah, again, there's no point in having people land on your website if your website can't convert them to either a lead or a sale. Your website needs to have all of the information so that that viewer feels like they know exactly what the next step is, and so that they feel confident in doing work with you.
100%. And it's like, it's words, right? You need to have those words there for people to understand. Donald Miller, who wrote Building a Story Brand, says, does the messaging pass the grunt test? If I read just the messaging on the homepage of your website, for example, could I tell somebody what you do? Or is it confusing? And if I don't get what you do and how you help people, then your messaging isn't enough.
So I think that leads nicely into our strategy number 3, which is minimal clicks. Not only do people need to understand very quickly and easily what you do, they also need to be able to find what they're looking for with the least amount of clicks possible. We, as users, and don't take this the wrong way, are kind of lazy sometimes, and we don't want to do the work. So make your website the most easy to navigate website so that people can find exactly what they're looking for and they don't have to click 30 times to figure it out.
Yeah, there's like a 3-click rule. If people have to click more than 3 times to find what they're looking for, they're going to abandon. And that 3-click rule is years and years and years old. I'm going to guess that it's more like a 2-click rule. And so what you should be thinking about, especially on your homepage, is the most important things that people are looking for 1 click away from the homepage. That homepage should be a launch pad into what it is that people want to buy from you or learn from you when they get to your website. When you think about going to a restaurant, for example, you go into a restaurant and they give you a menu and you get to immediately select what it is that you want to order to eat. But if you went in and they gave you a menu that had blank pages and they said, oh, what would you like for dinner? Now all of a sudden you don't know what to do because it's not easy for you to make a decision and make a choice. You need to make that user experience super, super easy when it comes to clicks so that things are not buried deep into the website, especially the things that are most important to the work that you do.
Mm-hmm. Or like when it comes to clicking and navigating a website, sometimes you're having to click on this, what feels like you're clicking on the same direction or the same button to go the same direction, but you're having to do it multiple times. Mm-hmm. So let's use your analogy of going to a restaurant. It's like, okay, you have to pre-select what you want to eat when you get there, but then when you get there, they're going to ask you what you want to eat again. And you're like, well, I already did this. Why is this so hard to do? I think your navigation is one of the most important tools on your page to limit clicks and make it easy for people to navigate your website. The way your navigation is, whether it's across the top, whether it's a hamburger menu, it is really, really important. And I'll use the hamburger menu as an example. To open a hamburger menu, that's 1 click. Then to hit the about page, that's 2 clicks. If you have a sticky navigation across the top that is just always there and you only have to click on the about page, I just cut your amount of clicks in half by telling you not to have a hamburger menu on your website.
100%. The other thing, it's a no-brainer, but Test your clicks. For goodness sake, sometimes links break on websites and things don't work. You don't want people clicking on things that don't go anywhere. So audit your website on a regular basis to make sure that the things that you want people to click on are actually clickable. All right, so number 4 is user experience. And, user experience while it's a little bit like the clicks, it's like really thinking through the experience that you want a user to have when they get to your website. Thinking about the homepage, is it set up like a command center that makes it easy for people to get to where they want to go? You don't want the user experience to be clunky, confusing, difficult. Pop-ups. Let's use pop-ups as an example. Pop-ups work, but they're so intrusive. And some people have these pop-ups on their website and they're so damn big that you can't even see the X to exit out of the pop-up. That is an example of a bad user experience. If you're going to have a pop-up, make sure the pop-up is small and it's easy for somebody to identify how to close it, or have a slide out that makes it easy for somebody to close it. Always be thinking about if what I'm adding to my website is helping or hindering the person who is visiting the website. If it's hindering the person who is visiting, then you are not optimizing for a positive user experience.
I think when it comes to user experience, there's a few other things that I find really commonly happen on websites. One, sometimes they're really hard to read. And I'm not talking about the language used. I'm talking about the font is tiny, or the font is gray or the font is red on a black background. That drives me nuts because I can't read that. And that's also creating major barriers to people who need who have different accessibility needs.
Negatively affects SEO, which we'll talk about later.
Yes, yeah. And so it's hard to read sometimes. Another one for hard to read is they use a cursive font a lot. I know it's really pretty and you want to include it in your brand, but it is so hard to read when you try to use it consistently on your website. It's not super user friendly. And then accessibility is another thing. Having alt text on all of your images is really great for user experience too, in case somebody is using a website reader tool that reads out everything that is on the website, is also really great for user experience. And then the last thing, which seems so simple, but you would be surprised how many businesses fail tragically at this. You got to make it really obvious how to actually buy your product or use your service. Like sometimes when I'm on a website and I'm like, okay, I want to buy this, like I'm ready to go, and I can't figure out how to give them my money, like that is so silly.
Yeah. I just went through this with a client. There's like a little plus sign. And it's like, what's that? Is that how you buy? You click the plus, and the plus sign is a hoverable thing. It's not even there. You have to hover over the product and the plus sign shows up. And so when I was on the site with this woman, she's like mortified, but that's a great example of not making it easy to buy. I'm going to add one more. People only look at their website on desktop and they don't consider the user experience on mobile, where most people, so many people are viewing websites on mobile devices today, making sure that your website is optimized not only for desktop, but mobile. And so when you think about some of the things like you said, cursive fonts and font size and font colors, that magnifies itself in terms of difficulty when it comes to a mobile device.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. What's next on the list, Cass?
We've got, I want to jump to prioritizing CTAs because I feel like it flows nicely to what we were just talking about. I said it's really hard sometimes to figure out how to actually buy the darn thing on people's websites. What is the recommendation you make to clients about prioritizing their CTAs?
So CTAs, for those of you listening, are calls to action. And I think when you are thinking about calls to action, you need to think about your most wanted and your second most wanted calls to action. And I think you need to think about things in terms of building a list or building leads. When you are building calls to action throughout the website, depending on the type of business you have, your primary call to action may be to have someone buy something, or your primary call to action might be list building. James Clear, one of my favorite authors and really, really savvy marketers, if you go to his website, you'll see that his primary call to action is all about building his list. He's got millions of people on his mailing list, and he has sold, I think, more than 15 million copies of his book, Atomic Habits now. That is not by accident, it is by design, because he has prioritized his call to action for building his list over and over and over and over and over again. So know what the call to action is. Know what the most important action you want someone to take is on the website, and then make it easy for them to do it. Make the button stand out. Make it be a color that is differentiated from the rest of the website. Make it clear. We talked a little bit about words on the website earlier, like making sure you have enough copy there. I'm going to add something in that is important for calls to action, and it is also important for the copy on the website as a whole, is clear is better than clever. So a lot of people like to be clever. They like to come up with these cool little word nerd terms that they think everybody's going to understand, and people don't know what they're talking about. And a confused mind says no, they're not going to click on it if they don't know what it is. So make whatever your call to action is super clear. If you want to talk to someone, make the call to action, schedule a call. Don't make it, connect to size or something. Make it super, super clear so people know exactly what it is.
All right. I like that. And then when it comes to a secondary call to action, how would you recommend people differentiate between the primary and the secondary? And where does the secondary actually go on the website?
So I think for both calls to action, the primary one I think should always be in the top right. And then I think it should be strategically placed in places on the website where it makes sense. Same with the secondary call to action. If the primary call to action is schedule a call and the secondary call to action is to join my mailing list, as an example, don't put join my mailing list underneath a product that you want me to buy, because that doesn't make sense. So you need to think about where the natural places are for these things to exist. If you want people to join your mailing list, ask them to subscribe to your mailing list on your blog content. Ask them to subscribe in the footer of your website. Ask them to subscribe on the sidebar of your blog. Ask them to subscribe in places that make sense on that pop-up. Don't even ask them to subscribe. Give them something cool and free to download in addition, and give them more than one thing. Create those things. But then when it comes to the primary call to action, if the way you get business is by having somebody schedule a call with you, then you want to make sure that on all of your service pages, you are incorporating schedule call language. And it doesn't even have to be a button. It could just be a bold line of text. If you would like to have a conversation with me to discuss this in further detail, click here to schedule a call with me. Infuse it throughout the website in the places where it naturally makes sense. Don't go to the About page and say, hey, I'm Lisa. I own a marketing company. Schedule a call. It doesn't make sense there. There needs to be context before you ask them to take action.
Amazing. Thanks for those actionable tips, because I think a lot of times people hear this, okay, I need to have calls to action, I need to have primary call to action, secondary call to action, but then they don't really understand what that looks like in actuality. So I think that will be helpful for people.
Right. Just simplify it. What do you want people to do? And make sure that you make it easy for them to do it. All right. Should we talk about speed and technical stuff? So one of the things that makes me crazy is when I try to go to a website and it doesn't load quickly. The other thing that makes me crazy is when I'm on a social network like LinkedIn, for example, and somebody posts a link and I click on the link and it tells me that the site is not secure because their SSL has expired. So I think it's really important that you have some type of a technical team that can help you to ensure that your site is safe and sound. And so not only do you want it to load fast, not only do you want it to have security, SSL installed, you also want to have somebody do regular maintenance on the back end so that you're preventing your site from getting hacked. We've all been there, right? You get an email from a provider, oh, we've had a security breach and your information was made public, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make you feel very good. It also doesn't make you feel very good to go to somebody's website and find that it has disappeared. That happened to me a million years ago. It was back in 2010, and I had a fairly new website, and I went to go to my website, and it was a white page. That's all it was a white page. I couldn't log into the back end of my website. My website had essentially disappeared. And what had happened is the developer at the time did an update to plugins before the plugins were updatable and compatible with the theme update, and it basically wiped out my website. So you want to ensure that your website is kept up to date from a technical perspective in the back end, your plugins, your themes, and all of that kind of stuff. But you also want to make sure that the person doing it knows the timing of when to do those things so that they don't break your website. So I'm going to give you a little education here. WordPress, which is the most common website builder in the world, will do updates. When WordPress does an update, you then need to update your theme. You then need to update your plugins. But before you update your theme and before you update your plugins, you need to make sure that the theme builder and the plugin builders have updated the plugins and the themes so that they are now compatible with the WordPress update. And so don't just click buttons in the back end to update the second you see them. Make sure that the person doing it has a backup of your website that is stored off of your website so that it can be reinstalled, and that they know the timing or the sequencing of when to do those updates for your website. Don't avoid doing them though, because if you avoid, like I'm talking a couple days, maybe a week, I'm not talking about years. If you have not done updates in years, you have security issues on your website and you want to get that resolved.
The points that I was going to add to that was doing regular backups of your website. This should be something you are doing, what do you think, monthly, Lisa?
Oh my gosh, daily. So
Daily backup?
Our website backup and security program that we offer our clients, it's $1,500 a year. And we do backups off-site every single day. We do all of the updating of the theme and the plugins, etc., for them whenever they come due at the appropriate time so that nothing gets broken. And we provide them with essentially hack insurance. So if something does happen and their website goes down, we can go to the last safe backup of their website and reinstate the website for them at no charge to them. So think about that. For literally a couple of dollars a day, like, $3 to $4 a day, you're protecting the revenue generating asset, which is your website. You need to be doing things like this, and you want to back up your website on a daily basis, especially if you're someone who adds content to the website regularly.
Okay. All right. Okay. So while we're talking about technical stuff, shall we talk about SEO? Because it can get really technical as well.
Yeah, so search engine optimization. Cass and I were joking because I said, we should talk about SEO optimization. She's like, search engine optimization. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is ensuring that your website can be found by whatever search engine people are looking at. So it doesn't matter whether you're using Google, whether you're using Chrome, Firefox, Safari, you want to ensure that your site is optimized so that the search engines can easily find you. So there's two ways that you approach that. One is when you're building your website, you want to make sure that you have a sound technical base. And when you do that, you also want to ensure that you have a hierarchy of needs, so to speak, when it comes to your keywords, and that you are prioritizing the most important keywords on your website for your pages, not your posts. There's a difference between pages on your website and posts on your blog. And when it comes to SEO, the keyword phrases that are most important, when you think about the things that you would want people to type into Google to find you, it's important that those are assigned to pages, not posts. Then when it comes to blog content, you want to ensure that you are using keyword phrases that support the business, but you don't want to use repetitive keyword phrases. So let's just pretend marketing is a keyword phrase that I want to be found for. And I have marketing as my homepage keyword phrase. I am not going to create a blog post and use the same keyword phrase marketing. I might use marketing for blogs, marketing for Facebook, marketing for social media, marketing expertise. I'm going to change the phrase. I can repeat the keyword, but I can't repeat the keyword in isolate. I can't duplicate the keyword. Or then essentially what's happening is you're telling Google that you don't know which of these pages is most important to show someone.
You're literally competing with yourself at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. And there's other aspects to SEO that matter in addition to keyword research. Keywords are really important. And you also need to pay attention to things like your website structure and your user experience. Those impact your search engine optimization. Linking, so linking within your site from one page to another and providing a clear pathway and journey for people to follow. And also having respectable links from other websites to yours. Those are called backlinks. And those are really beneficial for your search engine optimization as well.
100%. And speed. Load time is huge. So is accessibility. Believe it or not, when you have those tiny font sizes and you have that scripty font and you have those light colors that make it hard for people to read, you get penalized when it comes to SEO for those things. SEO is constantly changing, and it's hard for the average person to stay on top of it, which is why it's a good idea to work with a team that understands how to do the technical work for you, but is also paying attention to the changes that are happening with SEO as well. All right, what's next?
One of my favorite parts of our strategic marketing roadmap process is talking about content. And let's talk about the importance of having regularly recurring content added to your website so that your website isn't stagnant and unchanging.
Okay.
It's important to continue creating and showing your thought leadership on it.
So you go first. You tell us why that's important.
Okay, so you said something, I think in the last episode, and you said, sometimes I go to somebody's website and I see that they haven't written a blog post in 5 years, and it makes me think they're not in business anymore. And people pay attention to those things. So, you want to present yourself and position yourself as somebody who is active. And it's a great avenue to be showcasing your thought leadership and positioning yourself as the expert in the industry so that you can be the solution to whatever people are looking for.
It also gives search engines juice to find you. So when it comes to SEO, there's this thing called crawlers, and they crawl the website, on a regular basis looking for new content. And if your website doesn't have regular new content, then you are basically teaching the crawlers that there's nothing new and exciting for them to index when it comes to your website. And the longer your website is inactive, the less likely those crawlers are to recommend your links to people because you're not active on your website.
So when we talk about regularly recurring content, this could be in the form of blog posts. It could be in the form of new service pages. It could be in the form of resources. So perhaps you're creating a new FAQ, or you're adding a video section to your website, or you're adding new downloadable offers. All of this counts as recurring content.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Even modifying existing pages, going in and making changes is a good idea. But I think if you are, if you really think about the content that you're creating as part of the strategy for your marketing distribution, which we're going to talk about later, then at minimum, you should be adding new content to your website every single week.
We have some clients who do it multiple times a day. So you can do it more frequently, but once a week at minimum is always our recommendation.
I laugh because Alan Weiss is one of our clients, and he's written more books on consulting than anyone else in the world. And he's got a huge community of people that look to him for guidance on how to build successful consulting businesses. Alan and I wrote a book together called Masterful Marketing. And Alan is in his 70s. I think he's on the back end of 70s now. And he blogs every single day. He does a video called A Minute with Alan every single day. He has multiple newsletters that come out on a monthly basis. Some are paid, some are free. So he's got a weekly, and then he's got monthlies that come out. He's got a weekly cartoon. He's got a monthly writing on the wall. He's got a weekly podcast.
Monday morning memos too.
Yeah, that's the weekly, Monday morning memo. And so when I think about the amount of content that he churns out as the gold standard for how to build a successful solo practice, and I contrast it with what most people are doing less than 10% of what he is doing, but they're expecting to get the same outcomes. And it doesn't work that way. The content that you create is really the marketing factory for your business, and your website becomes a silent sales partner when you continue to add content that is valuable and useful for others on a regular basis. Now, you might be sitting here thinking, there's no way I can't blog every single day. That's fine, but you could blog at least once a week. So stop making excuses.
Maybe you blog once a week and then you turn that into a video, or you video once a week and then turn that into a blog. And there you go. That's 2 pieces of content on your website every single week. Yeah. And then lastly, just on, regular recurring content, this is also a way to direct people to your website, not only through search engine results, but, you can share that feed, or you can share that thought leadership on social media and direct people back to your website. You could share it in a newsletter and direct people back to your website. So if website traffic matters to you, regularly recurring content is one of the top ways to actually get people onto your website.
100%. 100%. All right. What do we have left here? So let's talk about contact page utopia.
I've never heard you call it that before. You use the utopia word, but it makes so much sense. So tell me why you're calling it a utopia.
Well, because the perfect contact page is one that generates leads on a regular basis, right? Isn't that utopia for business owners? You don't have to really put a lot of effort out and you're getting a lot of inbound leads. That's what everybody says they want. More inbound leads, more inbound leads. So, but yet when we go to contact pages, often there is very little information there. There's a static form. There's no phone number. There's no email address. There's nothing there to really build trust and credibility, and they don't convert well. So when I think of contact page utopia, I think you should have a video on the contact page that says, hey, if you're on this page, you're here for a reason, blah, 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 blah. You should have some copy that frames the contact page. You should have a form that people can submit if they want to ask information. If you have different services, you should have a drop down on that form so they can self-select. You should have a phone number that actually works that they could call or text you at. You should have an email address that if they want to email you directly, they can do that. Make the contact page a page that really, we talked about positioning. Does your contact page position you as someone that I want to reach out to? I'm guessing right now it does not. If you have other trust things like media logos that you can put on there or a couple of client testimonials, stop cheaping out on your contact pages by, being so sparse in terms of the amount of content that you have on there, and build them out and make them more of a robust experience. And I think you will see an improvement in the number of leads that you generate from those pages.
On the experience note, and this ties nicely to what we talked about when we were talking about your branding, and part of your branding is the experience you provide to your audience, to your leads, and to your customers. What happens after they fill out the form on your contact page? That matters too. And I'm going to group that in with your contact page strategy, because the next communication they receive from you could make or break the deal. What do they hear from you next? Are they getting an autoresponder email? Are they hearing directly from you? Are they being ghosted and having to wait a week before you even say anything to them? I would include that in your contact page strategy when you're working on that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And the last thing that I would say is test your contact page regularly if you have a form, because sometimes forms break. So do you know that your form actually works? Like, I would go in and test it once a week to make sure that your submissions are actually reaching you and that they're not going into junk or disappearing somewhere on the World Wide Web. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk about is self-selection if you have multiple audiences. So one of the things that we notice when clients come to us to do strategy work is they often have more than one audience that they want to speak to. And when they have more than one audience, instead of trying to speak to everyone in one website, we recommend having self-selection options. So if you go to theeventu.com, the event U as in the letter U, like university.com, you'll see an example of a website that essentially has 3 doors on the homepage that take you into 3 microsites that are each designed for a different audience. Now, I'm going to tell you something. We built this website probably a decade ago. And, I'm proud of that because we've done very, 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 very little work to maintain the website for the client. And it's still in pretty darn good shape. In fact, I had a conversation with him last week and he said to me, I can't believe the mileage that I've gotten out of the website that you built 10 years ago. Because he's like 10 years before that, it would have looked like night and day. So I was happy to hear that. But essentially, when you have multiple audiences, if you're really being thoughtful about the user experience, then you don't try to lump it all together. You create different entry points so that the user experience matches what your buyer is looking for. So in the case of the Event U, they have a door for event planners that want to learn about event management where they can, DIY and take a course. They have an option for colleges and universities that want to bring their curriculum into their schools. They have an option for corporate event planners that work for big corporations that want to learn, how to actually plan a huge corporate event. So those are 3 very, very distinct audiences, and they have chosen not to talk to each one the same way, but rather to create 3 microsites with a little bit of overlap in terms of what is done, but a lot of very differentiated pages that allow the user to experience the right journey based on the service that they need. So if you're someone who has more than one customer, stop trying to talk to everyone in one place and consider whether or not you should have different entry points on the homepage to create a better user experience.
I love this recommendation, and it doesn't apply to everyone. There's so many business owners out there who do have one very clear audience, and that's great. What I love about it, though, is it's a really creative solution for those business owners who have multiple distinct audiences, and it simplifies the process and the user journey so much so that you're eliminating any potential for confusion. And we've already said, the confused person says no, or whatever your saying was.
Yeah, a confused mind always says no.
The confused mind always says no. So this is a fantastic and creative solution to mitigating any potential for confusion, because your buyers or the segments of your audience have slightly different needs.
Right. It's kind of like, when you go to Banana Republic, they have menswear and women's wear. I don't need to shop the guys' wear. I don't want the guys' jeans mixed in with the girls' jeans. I want them separate. So think about it that way on your website too. Make it easy. You go into Lucky Brand store, the women's jeans are on the right and the guys' jeans are on the left. Like, make it easy for people. All right. So that's a lot of things that we've talked about in terms of websites. And keep in mind, what we're telling you need to do is the result of the things that we see a lot of people not doing. And so, excuse me, I would encourage you to go back to your website and do a little bit of a 10-point audit and see, out of these 10 things, are you 10 out of 10 on each of them? If you gave yourself a score on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of the things that we've talked about, how would you rank your website on a score out of 100? If you would not rank yourself 80 to 85 and above, then chances are part of your strategy right now needs to be finding some support to help you get your website to a place that you can be proud of versus leaving it the way it is right now. Anything you want to add, Cass?
Yeah, better yet, if you're giving yourself a score, we've talked about how sometimes it's hard to read the label when you're on the inside of the jar. Have somebody else go on your website and score your website, because when you've looked at your website 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, it probably seems really intuitive to you because you already know where everything is. Have somebody else who
Like
has
Cass
not been on your website before, like us, like, send me an email, I'll do it for you. Have them score it for you and see what they think, because you likely don't know what is wrong because you're so used to looking at it.
Right. And you're not a website expert. So, I am not. It was funny because I was at the hairdresser last week and I asked a question about toner. And she asked me why I wanted toner. And I said, well, I don't know. Like, do I need toner or do I not? I'm not a hairstylist. I don't know what toner is good for or isn't good for. All I know is most of my hairstylists use it. And so I was just curious about it. And so then she's asking me to decide whether I want toner or not. And I'm like, but I don't understand. That's not my area of expertise. You need to tell me whether I need it or not. And so I think that's the thing, is sometimes you need to find somebody who has expertise in the things that you don't have expertise in to guide you and help you. And the last thing I'm going to say is don't cheap out on your website. I mean, I see people that think that they can build a great website on Wix or Squarespace for $2,500 and they want to build $1 million business. Do you think that your customers who you want to spend $1 million are going to be impressed by a DIY Wix website that still has the Wix branding on the bottom because you didn't pay for the upgrade? I saw something written years ago. Chris Lemma said, your website should cost you what you would like to generate in 2 to 3 months worth of revenue. So if you're trying to generate $100,000 a year in your business, that is $8,000 a month. So it's not unheard of for you to spend $24,000 on a website. Like, think in terms of this is a serious investment that you're making in your business, in your brand, and how people find you. And I think sometimes people have very unreasonable expectations in terms of what it should cost to have a high-performing website. All right. Well, I think we have talked enough. We've gone over on our time, but I think this was super valuable. I hope it was helpful to all of you. Thanks, Cass. You added some really, really great insights. I have to tell you, doing strategic marketing roadmaps with you is a lot of fun because you bring perspective from your education, your demographic, and the work that you do with our clients every day. I bring my, million years of experience to the table. And I feel like, we're kind of like the yin and yang of how we do this. And that creates a lot of value for our clients. And I hope this created a lot of value for our listeners too. So thank you for listening. On our next episode, we will be talking about thought leadership and content marketing. So if you're someone who struggles to create that content and you don't know where to start, make sure you tune into our next episode because it's going to be all about that. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.